So final leg of the program, can I first and foremost request my colleague, student, whatever, Adarsh, and very good friend to really come and moderate the session. Adarsh is from Solace, Rishi Agarwal from FSG, please. Ashok, Justin from FSG again, and Shared Value Initiative. Deepak from SR, Bhaskar Chatterjee Saab from Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, and Sumantra from JSW, please. Over to you, folks. You have exactly 35 minutes, sir.
We have a very interesting lineup of panelists, as we were discussing earlier, representing both, in fact, three sections: the government, the industry, as well as from the Shared Value Initiative as well. So, as the discussion is around future shared value in India, we had yesterday at the Partners Day, we were having some discussions on the same as well. But I think this is because shared value, there's been a law implemented in 2014. India was the first country in the world to have a CSR law in place. And now we are talking about a concept of shared value. So there are a lot of divergent views whether CSR is different from shared value, whether it's the same or not. And probably India is one of the countries where there is a requirement of shared value, as Mark was talking in the morning as well, that majority of examples he gives across the world for shared value is from India. So India happens to be in a unique position where we are actually practicing shared value. There are a lot of social enterprises who are working on shared value, a lot of microfinance companies who have been listed in the stock exchange. So they are actually practicing the concept of shared value. At the same time, the large corporations who have been active in the field of CSR, working with communities in and around their locations, in and around their geographies, how do they see shared value coming? So I think we're good to have different perspective. I think, Deepak, it would be good to start from you, as you represent you worked extensively in the CSR space, and you interact also with a lot of other corporates. So you have a fair understanding, and you're also one of the member companies for shared value in India. So probably you understand both the space well. So in terms of how do you see the concept of shared value shaping up in India, and at the same time, in terms of the previous round was where we had people from HUL, Cargill. For the FMCG and healthcare space, shared value is still, you can say, a concept which has a practical application because of responsible sourcing, but for heavy industries, it is difficult to define shared value. So yeah,
thank you, Adarsh. So firstly, I think there are several concepts that are in concurrent discussions. One, we often hear of sustainability, CSR, and shared value, and there is a little bit of an overlap between these three concepts. And shared value is probably a notch ahead of the other two concepts. While in the Indian context, I think CSR is a little more relevant concept, because when you compare it with sustainability, which is generally more inward looking, when you look at the Western world, most of the companies would look at improving efficiencies, looking at safety and emissions, and that is what would really comprise of the HSE part of it in the sustainability, which is confined to the four walls of the company. Whereas the Indian context, which is more relevant, is the CSR part, which is actually outside the four walls. Now, shared value is probably a concept which again cuts across both these, and it's more at the center of it. Now, and why I say this, because I see as a company coming from the B2B sector, there are three clear dimensions to shared value. One is the supply side of it, the second is the demand side of it, and third is the ecosystem part of it. And I will take examples for all three because you specifically asked for examples. So when you look at your supply side, I think very clearly there are opportunities of engaging your local community as your important stakeholders in progress. And there are sufficient number of examples available at SR and sufficient number of examples available in other corporates where you have really aggregated the community around you, made them into your suppliers, vendors, you have handheld them. And when I say hand-holding to suppliers and vendors, there are two elements to it. First is the element of risk, because you can very well get an international vendor or contractor to do things for you, and they can do it for you. But when you hire a local contractor who is not really experienced in doing what you want, or even let's say constructing a good wall, so unless you handhold that contractor to such a level where he is capable to not only service you as an independent business person at a business price, and then maybe go to the next level of becoming a vendor and a supplier or a construction vendor to other companies. So that's one dimension which I can, there are a lot of examples available on the supply side. Similarly, on the demand side of it, I think there are again a number of examples, and as you rightly said, the moment you move from the B2B space to the B2C space, that is when the opportunities really open up. And if I take another example from what has been done in the core sector and with us, so generally the sheets that we produce are very long, they are very heavy. So the moment we stepped into creating service centers, so you could identify that, okay, you can cut and size. And the fabricator who's actually buying this stuff from you saves almost 50% of time, because which is using welding to cut the sheets to size. Similarly, housing, which is really, when you look at in the rural areas, especially in the distress areas when there is a calamity, they are generally made out of material which is locally available. And it takes a lot of time to make those houses. So you've seen movement in the steel sheets per se, the quality, the type, the color coding and everything, colors have been coming, so they are coated now. So those can be converted into low-cost housing at a very short notice. So that's yet another dimension wherein you can bring in local fabricators who can do a lot of quick turnaround on these kind of things. So there are opportunities if you look at it. The third pillar, as I said, is the ecosystem part of it. And in the ecosystem part of it, your directly impacted community is your around you. The moment you look at, let's say, something like the health, I think it has a very direct bearing on attendance, which you generally don't end up calculating. You look at their skill development, it automatically looks at creating your own local pool. But there is no short-term solution to this. Unless we really look at a more long-term solution, probably a 15 to 20 year horizon, I don't think we will get that kind of a quality input.
Great. I think that is a fair assessment of the overall scenario and how does CSR and again shared value as well collaborate together. Moving to Rishi, I think you actually work with companies on inclusive markets, as you. At the same time, you are working with the global firms as well and representing FSG in India. How do you see FSG, the shared value concept being different in India as compared to the global firms?
I think two things to highlight. Deepak made a valid point that the obligation of corporations to society in some ways is deeply ingrained in the Indian corporates. Right? They go more often than not beyond the call of duty to make an impact on their employees and the communities that they work in. Where it sort of breaks is that it does not create an impact at scale to address the social problems of the country, right? And I think that is where looking at something which helps different models, so inclusive markets, for example, which is, you highlighted the communities as suppliers, as customers, and as part of the ecosystem. I think looking at all three dimensions and saying how can we actually redefine how we do business to include them within the ambit of our normal business rather than looking at doing good and creating value as two separate silos and saying how can we create value by doing good. Right, so for me, it's a question of, and there's a Arun Mehra quote which is there earlier, which is the prevalent CSR is like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, right? It's not about rearranging the deck chairs, it's about changing the course of Titanic is what we need to do if we need to secure our future. In my mind, and Justin can help on in terms of how it compares with US, but in India, I think this is probably the largest lab we have to test models at scale. And I will come back to the point David was making earlier as well, that you have to start thinking and testing things at scale, because till you do that, you would not run into a lot of barriers which hinder social enterprises from reaching scale. So you raise the point of ecosystem. Not audible? Okay. Thank you. So I think one of the things that we have seen a lot is that when you start thinking of ecosystem, there are barriers which are within the firm that the firm can address, right? But then when you start going on and try to create scale, there are barriers which are not in control of the firm. There are barriers which are created by the way, let's say, the infrastructure is in the country, the way the social cultural norms are, looking at beyond that, how the government interacts with the operations. So when you start looking only from a CSR perspective, only at the communities you work with, only at your employees, what you're doing is you're creating you're removing the barriers to a certain degree and creating an impact close to you, but not changing the ecosystem. And that ecosystem change is what would really be an inclusive market solution.
Great, great. I think again moving to Justin as well. From where Rishi was actually mentioning that, well, you'll be able to share again your perspective in terms of, because the way we see it as a shared value from an Indian context might not be the same if we talk about say a US firm, or it could be a global corporation having a different policy in the US and a different policy in India with regards to sourcing or with regards to other concepts. So how do you see from an Indian context, do you see companies having a different policies, or will it be the same concepts which is there globally as well?
Thanks for that question. You know, the way I see it, I guess, at its core, shared value is really a management principle, right? It's a concept, and one that Mark and Michael wrote about a number of years ago now, but it sets out a framework and a language. But I guess when we set out to start the Shared Value Initiative, the Global Shared Value Initiative, the sort of core idea we had at hand was that there needed to be a translation of that core concept to different operating contexts around the world. So is shared value different in India? Absolutely. Is the way that government engages with the private sector different in India than the United States? Absolutely, and it should be. Is the state of the NGO sector, as we've heard today, different in India than the United States? Absolutely. But I do think the core concept of creating both business and social value can stay true and stay sort of underpinning it. But the way that that's realized here in India will, by definition, be different than Korea or Australia or the United States or anywhere else. I mean, it's interesting, this whole question about language. It's very common that someone will come up to me and say, and describe an initiative. They'll run through a whole initiative, and it will meet this very simple test of both creating business and social value at the same time. And they'll run through the whole thing, and I'll be thinking to myself, this is great, this is wonderful, and they'll end by saying, and this is in our CSR department. What do you think about that? I say, that's great, that's wonderful. Because really my means test here is not what any of you call it. That's not the most important thing. The initiative doesn't exist to try to dominate the language wars. The initiative exists to share and make a public good out of a principle, a management principle of changing the way businesses interact with society. And ultimately, I think in our work, that's what we default back to. And to me, that's sort of the most important dimension. Does it create business value? Does it create social value? Are they linked? And is there a proximity to the business and the way that the business works that we can see and appreciate that creates that dedication to addressing it and scaling it? That's what I look for.
In terms of JSW, is again is a heavy industry. Is again, as I was mentioning to Deepak, that it's not in a typical B2C business, but a B2B business. You'll be engaging with communities as well. How do you see sustainable community initiatives in and around your location? Again, linking with shared value as well. And probably you could give some examples of sustainable community initiatives which you are undertaking as part of the foundation.
Sure. I think it's not just about, and thank you. So basically, it is not just about JSW Foundation looking at just its own, direct impact zone, or looking at how better engagement with the communities can help it. I think it's more about how it can collaborate with other stakeholders also and expanding that further. So two very interesting things happened this morning. I mean, in this short flight from Jaipur to Delhi, I had this copy of this half-read HBR article on CSR, which was popping out of the seat pocket. A young gentleman seated on the window seat, he kind of said, "Can I take a look?" He took it out. And then we soon started talking about innovation, etc. Okay. Just then, the gentleman sitting next to me, a CEO of a medical devices company that is working in a PPP model with a with government hospitals to upgrade them. He started talking about how CSR can act as a seed to some of this work. Now, soon we were talking about, pay per use. We were talking about how do you, address different segments. How can we ensure that these are sustainable models? And lo and behold, we are talking about in the next week we are looking at can we collaborate and create a model. So so basically what I'm trying to say is that the next level, it is not just about JSW. Of course, we are working directly with our communities. There are some programs that have now taken shape, which are no longer short-term projects. They're taking shape as programs. So women empowerment, women livelihood, which is being integrated into a program. There's a strong focus on basic resources like water. There is skill development. But I think going beyond that, in certain themes, what I see is that the real shared value would be how do we collaborate with the larger community. Another interesting thing, and one of the flagship programs where I think we are definitely going beyond our direct impact zone is nutrition. And interestingly, this morning, financial sector, multinational large team has connected with us to see can we scale it up, can we go beyond those 2 pilot areas and can we take it to the next level. So my take right now is that to the next level of CSR is basically how do we collaborate, innovate and scale up.
I completely agree with what Sumantra is saying. See, if you really have to create a market, then whosoever is a competitor today, unless you collaborate, you don't end up creating a big market.
True. Good to hear that perspective, because typically what we see is corporates like to get restricted to one location or one geography. But when we are talking about innovation and working in collaboration with different social enterprises, with different organizations, we can look at a larger goal as well, and it helps in creating a larger market as well, as Deepak. So it's a win-win for all. Yes. Coming to Dr. Chatterjee, you have been instrumental in getting the CSR law in India, framing it and again propagating it at a large level. If you look at the Companies Act and now the concept of shared value, which you're talking in India, how do you see both of them coming together, or shared value getting integrated with the Companies Act? Because are we looking at 2 divergent areas, or going ahead you see both of them converging together?
Let me confess at the very outset that when I was writing the Indian legislation, a large part of the intellectual strength that I drew was from the work of Michael Porter and Professor Kramer, who's here. It's uncanny that the HBR article, which is now considered to be the seminal originator, came out in the January issue of 2011. And the first ever guidelines on CSR, as we called it in India, I brought them out on the 1st of April 2010. It's also no coincidence that in India, we brought CSR first into the area of public sector organizations, which are not so dominant in the US, but because of our socialist history, we had a very large and very dominant public sector space in India. And it occurred to me then that if we were ever to get CSR or shared value, let me use them at least for now interchangeably, then charity needed to actually begin at home. Before we went to the private sector, we needed to tell the private sector, hey guys, this is not being imposed on you as though government organizations have not been doing it first. We need to impose it on government organizations first before we try and preach to the private sector. So uncannily, that space actually happened at around about the same time. And about a year or so later, I went to meet up with Professor Porter in Harvard, and I can never forget the interaction I had with him. He was actually allotted me 10 minutes of time, but ultimately when we got to speaking, it lasted about 90 minutes. And I drew a large amount of the intellectual space in creating the legislation from what he said to me and the understanding of shared value. All I knew then was that I needed to try and tweak the concept to suit the Indian situation. Primarily because the US is less legislated in terms of the private sector than we are. And if we were to try and get some sort of a CSR model going in India, we perhaps needed to bring in a legislation rather than just make it a wide ambit appeal. I was also very keen then, having been in the development sector for a long time, to try and see how I could use CSR as a tool for using private sector efficiencies, private sector innovation, private sector strategy contemplation to link with India's development story. Because for us, the economic and social development space of India, if we could accelerate it with the help of the private sector, not that government would withdraw from the space, but if we could work together and use all of the strengths of the private sector, build it into the Indian development story, then we would have a great story to tell. So if you place the Indian CSR model squarely on top of shared value, 90% of it coincides. Because the idea is to try and use the business acumen of India for doing social good. And because that space almost coincides, we have a very easy relationship in India between these two concepts, which are now, as I see it, actually moving side by side. So there's a great future for both.
Great. If I could follow up on that, is impact investing is something which was talked in the morning as well by Mr. Sinha. In CSR, a lot of companies have actually shown interest, and this in terms of working with social enterprises. But again, this question comes up whether it is CSR or not. If we go ahead and invest in those enterprises as well, because they are for social good, but they are self-sustainable and they will deliver a smaller percentage of return.
So again, here we had this problem
yes.
because in the initial submission that I made to government, I had very much put in social enterprises. It got taken out in the final draft for reasons still unknown to me. But I was able to connect, and I was hearing Professor Kramer very carefully in the morning, this concept of connecting civil society organizations and NGOs appealed very widely to us. It resonated very well in India. 3.3 million civil society organizations, the largest NGO space anywhere in the world, followed, by the way, sir, by Bangladesh, our immediate neighbors. So we have very good civil society organizations here. So if we were able to knit them together, there was hope. But unfortunately, social enterprises still got left out. I hope we'll be able to bring them in.
Yeah, what do you add?
And this space needn't be kind of regulated. I mean, it doesn't have to, from the corporate social responsibility contribution, it doesn't have to come in the form of impact investing. It could be like we were discussing, with a Swachh Bharat initiative down south somewhere, where the infrastructure and the initial thing is funded by a CSR initiative, but a team, all women team is now running it like a social enterprise. It's pay per use, it can sustain itself, it is looking at upgradation, so it doesn't have to be called impact investing. In fact, there were also discussions about, can CSR fund be transferred into an impact fund? I mean, can it form an impact fund, etc.? That's been a discussion in the industry. A lot of people have also approached us with that thought. So why does it have to be really an impact fund? There could be pooling of resources from like-minded corporates who have a particular theme in mind or a geography in mind, and they can work together. So I think impact investing, yes, of course, it is I would say it is a 60 billion or whatever 1.5, 1.6 that we have in India. It's a tremendous next level, but this CSR fund can act as a seed for pilots, initial support to infrastructure, which is a major challenge, So, for example, if we are supporting a rural BPO initiative, there are a lot of non-profits who are willing to run the operations and P&L. But what comes in as a challenge is the initial cost. So there comes the CSR.
Absolutely.
So therefore, I think you can together, working with various stakeholders, you can create that model, which is almost like impact investing, but with an SROI in mind.
I think, one thing I would just add here, I think the other thing that helps is to put this in the context of where are we in adoption for most companies, right? In what we always refer to as the journey towards shared value. And I think, and a couple of people have asked me this over the last 2 days, and this came up in the Partner Day conversation yesterday. And I think the short answer, both here and globally, is very early. And I think the examples that you see given are what I still consider as leading examples of the leading companies who are starting to innovate. So before we jump to disparage sustainability groups or CSR groups, let's pause and understand within companies what we have. We have, yes, maybe the historical vestiges of how companies have engaged in society, but there are critical assets within those organizations, namely the people and businesses who tend to be closest to understanding the systemic social issues that these businesses confront and are willing to take and think about a different way that the business can interact with society. And what you ultimately see, though, as companies go on a journey of embedding it within their company, which is, by the way, something that's been alluded to today, but we haven't really built out. It's really the hardest part of the journey. We talk about the CEOs. We talk about the companies philosophically getting on board. But guess what? Making this actually a part of the way businesses operate is the much harder piece of the puzzle here, but is also the key to scaling within companies, as we know. And what I would say is these groups within companies bring the skills and assets, and ultimately as the company goes on a journey of embedding it in business units, of embedding it in operations, what you see is that oftentimes people in these roles ultimately end up playing like a center of excellence role where they help inform management across business units, across the globe, across different geographies on how to pursue these initiatives.
Welcome. We have been discussing, the panel has actually discussed on, again, shared value in India. So we have been talking about the concept and how CSR and shared value are not probably two separate things, or should not be viewed as two separate things in the Indian context. So India is at a unique position where shared value could also work towards CSR, or the CSR initiatives could be shared values. So what are your views again, in terms of, because you have been propagating concept of shared value in a previous discussion as well. So in terms of how do you see shared value shaping up in India, and how do you see it, corporates responding to it, in terms of differentiating between CSR and shared value, or they will look at a larger holistic picture?
First of all, my apologies for being late. I was caught up in the meeting and then in the traffic, but I'm glad I could make it. Thank you. I just heard you. I think you said you wanted to know my views on CSR initiatives and whether they could scale up to shared value initiatives. Is that what you really want to know, or the?
So the discussion around, because the Companies Act again talks about CSR and shared value is at a larger level, at a more strategic level. So where do you see the shared value concept shaping up in India, in the Indian context?
Well, at the moment, I'll be very frank, there is not much of shared value being practiced in India. That concept is yet to gain ground. It is yet to be fully understood and ingrained in the minds of the CEOs, the top management of the companies. We are at the moment more focused on CSR initiatives, and we have a mindset on CSR. So, but I wouldn't say that CSR initiatives are the same as shared value initiatives. There's a difference between the two. And I think if you remain stuck in that groove of CSR, you may not make much progress. I'm sorry to differ. I mean, I don't know what the panelists before have said, but CSR, you have to get out of CSR. You have to go beyond CSR. Shared value is something which is beyond CSR. But I think that even within the CSR that we are practicing, and it's now that the law of the land is sacrosanct and every company has to do it after that meeting that threshold value, even within CSR, there is some scope provided. You don't indulge in plain and simple philanthropy. If you take the path of strategic philanthropy, then probably you are moving towards And this is what I've been exhorting companies to do, to drop that attitude of simple and plain philanthropy, altruistic philanthropy, benevolent philanthropy, and move towards strategic philanthropy. Because once you do strategic philanthropy, the management will immediately understand the benefits of going over to shared value. And number two, CSR does not prohibit you from practicing shared value. When you talk of CSR, you're actually talking of only 2% of the net profits of the company, which you have to spend on CSR, the kind of CSR which has been now mandated by law. But what about the remaining budget of the company? The remaining budget of the company, which you spend on the mainstream activities, that can be actually utilized for shared value, provided you understand the advantages of shared value. That is important. The link between the two is that if you are able to understand that your concern for society, your concern for the environment, the social objectives which you need to pursue, if you want to pursue, that they need to be aligned with your business profile, business strategy. If that connection is understood, and once you realize that there's no dichotomy or there's no competing claims between society and business, then I think you've got the whole picture. And then you'll be able to move forward. But that will take some time. In India, it will take some time. Some companies, private sector companies, are actually practicing, and I know of quite a few which are doing a wonderful job.
In fact, the panel also had a similar view in terms of strategic CSR, when we talk about CSR as well. Good, I think, so we have 3 minutes left. I think we'll open up for questions. Yes, please.
My question is to Rishi. So we were talking about ecosystem change was being talked about, right? You also highlighted the social norms, which cause a hindrance somewhere. So how to involve a common man into the process, like, apart from just the corporates and the NGOs, or say the projects, is there a way to involve a common man, say society at large, to benefit the underprivileged?
Sure. So thanks for the question. I think 2 things there. When I say social norms, any large inclusive market project, or what most people will try to do in inclusive markets is change consumer behavior. So what you're trying to change is an accepted consumer behavior, a social norm that exists in the real world, right? What you will try and do is it either through an NGO. There would be behavioral change workshops, you would do interactions. What you would try and do is get that individual to move from position A to position B through a certain intervention. Who does that intervention is actually less relevant. How you do that and what period it takes to do that and how sustainable it is far more important than who actually ends up doing that intervention.
So my question is, so typically a company CSR policy really kind of is restricted. I completely agree on that. In terms of when they have to leverage the funds that they have, which is also quite a huge amount, they particularly leverage it only in their business areas and might not be in the area or the region where it is really required. So how do large corporations like SR Group, how do you think that you're going to bring that policy change and actually introduce the shared values into CSR,
Sure. Thank you. So I think, India as a nation has a very diverse and a very big requirement and there are social issues, social challenges everywhere. So for a business enterprise, you cannot be an island of excellence in the midst of nothing. So you can't be that. So I think the first and foremost responsibility is towards your immediate stakeholders, building towards little more egalitarian structure. And I think that's the time when one should really move out. And even when we were deliberating internally on what we should do, because we also get requests from all over and there are some ideas which are very good. I think internally we took a conscious decision and we prepared a 5-year plan which was coinciding with the 5-year plan of the business. And we said that the first 5-year plan is now coinciding with the business plan of the main corporate entity, and the focus will remain on the peripheral areas. But having said that, I think it's an evolving concept. You cannot infinitely feed the villages or work in the villages which are around your area. There will be a stage where you will move out. You will look at additional things. But there are also some projects which most of the corporates do look at beyond the peripheral areas, which are national level issues. So there are initiatives like that.
I'll just quickly add one point there, that serving your direct impact zone, I think goes very well with the CSV if you look at it that way. You know, of course, the private sector, the corporates can do much more than that. That's another matter. But I think that goes pretty well. And like Deepak pointed out, I think for mature programs, most of the corporates are not going beyond that. That's expanding all the time. You know, that's one. And how you approach certain solutions, you know, how much success you receive. I think that's going to decide that are you going to champion something which is much beyond DIZ. So that's something which is happening as we speak. Let the arithmetic 2% etc. settle down. Let all the stakeholders talk to each other. I'm sure, you know, some of them will also talk to the regulation, and we'll see much more, you know, much more kind of, you know, avenues there, many more avenues to kind of collaborate and expand that.
It's a learning phase for most of the corporates. And I think even the NGOs are adapting, they are learning how to talk to corporates because the languages are different. So you will see an evolution and change in time to come.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Done?
I think we'll take it offline. Yeah, we'll take it offline.
We'll have to call it a... Okay, thank you,
Yeah,
thank you,
thank you
Adarsh,
for
so
the
kind of
panel,
you.
yeah.
Thank you, thanks a lot for being on the panel, please. Thank you. So just a small token of appreciation from Leela to be here. So a round of golf from them, right? So, and probably some membership for the golf club or whatever. Thank you.